Welcome to Faith That Works, exploring the changed lives of those living by faith. Your host, Bob McHouston, will spotlight ordinary people who have discovered for themselves a faith that works.
Thank you for joining us for the program Faith That Works. We're so glad that you have joined us, and we just have a couple of wonderful guests with us this evening. We have, I feel as though I have known at least one of our two guests tonight. His family, we have known his family, and it's just been a great honor to meet both Elizabeth and Bryan Fikes. Who are with us tonight, and they are just going to be sharing some of their own personal story and what God has done in the process over the years and how God is now using their story to help others. So if you guys would, Elizabeth, if you would, first I'd like to hear just a little bit about your personal story of coming to Christ. If you could just kind of tell that story for us a bit.
Sure. Well, I grew up in a Christian home. Bryan and I were really fortunate to have very godly parents who, from a very young age, taught us scripture, took us to church. We were very involved in our church, and it was something that we weren't just getting at church, but also at home. And when I was in camp, I was at a Christian camp when I was 8 years old. It's the first time during a passion play that it really became real to me for the first time, and it sounds like a very young age, but for me it was a very powerful moment, and I remember it very distinctly, and it was very real to me. And I gave my life to the Lord that night.
At 8 years old?
At 8 years old, yeah.
And how did you walk that out through junior high and high school?
Well, I think it went back to having a really wonderful home and Christian parents who encouraged us and made sure that we had every resource to grow and develop as a Christian. And, I had an awesome group of Christian friends too. I also went to a Christian college, so all of those were really important for developing a foundation that I could then take with me for the rest of my life to where we are today.
Wow. So is your story similar to hers, Bryan?
Not quite. Yeah, it's a little different. I walked the aisle at a young age. I obviously grew up in the same home that Elizabeth did, and walked the aisle at a young age. Looking back on my life, I don't know that a real change occurred at that point in my life. I know that beyond that point, I began to make bad decisions, and that started at a young age for me, and really grew into something a little bit more significant the older that I got. And through bad decisions came certain consequences, and through really a series of long events, I found myself in a pretty bad place. And thankfully, we serve a gracious God and a deliverer, and I was certainly delivered from that, and really feel that I found the Lord and developed a relationship with the Lord at 16 years old in a jail cell prior to attending about 15 months of drug and alcohol treatment.
Okay.
And then that was an experience in itself, but one that I look back on now and very much appreciate, and can really see not only the growth that I had as an individual and in my recovery, but also the growth I had as a new believer in Christ.
I'd love for you to go back a little bit and just give us a little more detail about kind of what started you on that road of how did you end up in jail as a 16-year-old?
Yeah. Well, if I go all the way back, when I was 12 years old, I transitioned from private school to a public school. And through that transition, I was confronted with really what I consider now a popularity crisis. I was kind of the man in a really small school, and then I transitioned to a much larger school, and I didn't. I was a small fish in a big pond, and so at that point, I really just was doing whatever I could to fit in, and began using drugs at the age of 12. That was my 6th grade year. It started out as harmless as drug use can be, I guess. There was certainly no addiction at that point. It was an effort for me to just kind of comply with the peer pressure and have a good time, I guess. In 7th grade and 8th grade, it worsened. I continued to use. I began seeing at that point for the first time some negative impacts that it was having in my life. In 8th grade, I was suspended from school for selling drugs.
Wow.
And that was the first time that my family became aware that I was even using drugs. In 9th grade, I continued to use. Again, it worsened, and by the time I was in my 2nd semester in 9th grade, I had really gotten to a point that there were obvious changes happening in my life that were having a tremendous negative impact. And so at that point, my parents actually became aware of the issues that I was having, and I made a real effort to change at that point in my life. I could see that there were bad things happening, and I was able to acknowledge that I needed to change. And so I made a real conscious effort to do so. I was unsuccessful in that attempt. It lasted for a few months. Before long, I was using again, and really full circle, a year later, 2nd semester.
15?
I was 15 at this point. A year later, 2nd semester, my 10th grade year, as a 16-year-old, I really began to use hard drugs again. I was using every day. I was using all day. I was, at this point, failing out of school. I had a very successful athletic career up to that point, and I had quit playing sports altogether. Relationships with my friends and family were in shambles, and it was at that point I wound up in a jail cell. I was scheduled to seek treatment through an organization in Tupelo, and I got sort of quick feet or cold feet right prior to attending treatment, and so my family at this point was well aware of the severity of my disease, and my father made a decision at that point in my life to have me arrested, placed in jail, and then from jail I was court ordered to 15 months in treatment. Wow. And it was in a jail cell that I had a very personal encounter with God, and I think He showed up in a very real, intangible way in that moment, and we've had a strong relationship ever since.
Elizabeth, where were you in the home when all of this was going on?
Well, it's funny, yes and no. I was living in France at the time, but imminently, the 2 weeks before he actually had to be arrested, I had come home because our other sister was getting married, and so I came home early for the wedding, and everything sort of escalated to this point that Bryan finally sought treatment, admitted that he needed help, and did initially agree to get treatment on his terms. So I was home for all of that,
And this was before he was in jail, right?
yes. So that led to my parents having to have him arrested.
How did that affect you being on that kind of on the outside of that? How did you see that affect the family as a whole?
It was really hard for our family, and I think people don't, of course, you know about how challenging it is for the person using, but it's very difficult for the family. And our family was so close knit that Bryan and I have a very close relationship, always have, as siblings. And so there are a lot of behavioral changes that come with using, and he became a completely different person. He became very manipulative, very angry. He would be set off at the tiniest thing. He lied, and you don't want to believe that this person that you've known that was so truthful and so honest and you have such a close relationship with is lying to you. But so much of what he was telling us at that time was lies, and that's why you want to believe the person too that you love, and so that's why it also helps to sort of mask the behavior for a really long time. And it was very difficult for our family. He was very hurtful, and like I said, he became someone that he wasn't, and that takes a toll on the family.
Yeah. Bryan, tell me kind of what you went through when you were arrested, and how long you were in jail, and kind of that process that led you to that encounter.
Well, we spoke actually as a family just a few weeks ago about the experience of me being arrested. And to Elizabeth's point, the family was so strongly impacted by that event to the extent that I really didn't realize until now, years later. We discussed, and I had a chance to really kind of reflect on what that was like for them, and it was very emotional and very difficult. And I can tell you that for me, even now, grateful for where I am, it was difficult to hear some of that stuff, that that things that I had said and ways that I had acted, and to the people that mean more to me than than really anything in life. So it's just it's a tough thing to reflect on at times, because there was so much negativity, and there was so much warfare, spiritual warfare going on. But I think we can look back on it now and really just be thankful for what the Lord did. I spent 10 days in jail, and probably the longest 10 days of my life. I really kind of resisted the system as well, which made it that much longer. I remember having tried to make a phone call to family when I was there, and I was prohibited to do such. And I think Elizabeth actually called back to the jail and asked who had tried calling her. She had a missed call from this number, and her name was Elizabeth Fikes, and her brother was in and so I was caught. I was punished pretty severely for that. And so those times were
I
know.
those were really difficult times. But I transitioned out of there into treatment, and really that's at that point in my recovery, I was getting closer and closer to a point that I was willing to make some change. And the foundation for me and my change was, without a shadow of a doubt, my relationship with Jesus Christ. Because I shared the point earlier about how when I was 15, I tried to make that change, and I tried to do it on my own. And I was successful for a time, and then found myself slipping back into my old ways.
And it got worse than it was
And then
in
it
the
got
beginning.
worse than it was in the beginning, as I think so many of us can relate to, no matter what we're going through in life. And the second time around, I really felt at the end of my rope, And so as a last-ditch effort, really feel that I physically called out to the Lord and said, hey, if you're there, if this is real, if you can hear me, then I need you to help me. And I need it now. And that's when I feel like he showed up in a big way. And I really do feel that that was a tangible experience. And so from there, I was able to really grow. And I now had the foundation necessary to build a successful recovery on. And that's not to say that there weren't road bumps along the way and that it was all just peachy keen moving forward, because it wasn't. Recovery was tough and still is sometimes, but with the support of the Lord, it's now manageable, you know, and it's doable, whereas before it wasn't.
Right. So that's been how many years now since you finished, well, you don't ever finish the recovery process, but once you finished going through through rehab?
I went into jail May 20th of 2004. So this month, 20th of this month, will mark 13 years.
Okay.
And been clean and sober since.
Okay. So you have moved, both of you are involved in starting, not really involved, you spearheaded a new rehab for male adolescents in Oxford, Mississippi. Tell me kind of what led up to that. Is that an idea that you've had for a long time, and just kind of share with us that process?
Well, it started with this experience that we've been through together, and it was our family having experienced all of it together. We were passionate about the industry and what it had done for our lives and for our family, and through the years we were able to maintain relationships with people that we met through treatment or just through helping other families try and navigate some of these waters, and we were just really had a desire to help and be involved in some way, and began praying about it, and really simply said God began to open doors, and we started to walk through them. And
so did this process start almost immediately once you were through rehab yourself?
No, I would say that there was an immediate passion for the industry and what it can do for an individual, but not only an individual, but a family. This actual process towards Stonewater started about 3 years ago. We met an individual that had a tremendous amount of experience in the industry and in running a treatment facility. Around that time, several other individuals became present and really wanted to help, and so we leveraged those resources as much as we could, and then kind of slowly things started to fall into place for this to become reality. And I can't tell you at what point we really said, hey, this is happening, but that occurred, and then when it did, I think we all agreed that let's be all in with this thing. And Elizabeth, moved home. She was in New York for a number of years, and she moved home to play a very pivotal role in what we're doing. And we've had some other professionals get involved and also play a pivotal role in what we're doing. And now it's just kind of continuing to try and help people, and I think that's the root of it all.
So the name of it is Stonewater. Tell me about that name, Elizabeth. Why did you choose that name?
Well, Stonewater was a name that we came up with after long deliberations. It's something that we did as a family. We wanted a name that really represented our identity, who we are, who we wanted to be, who we want to be for these families and for the patients that would be coming through our doors. In order to kind of tell the meaning of Stonewater, I should tell you our vision statement, which is lifelong recovery lived. And we don't want Stonewater to be a 90-day program that guys come through, they check the box, and then they're finished. it's a lifelong approach to recovery. It's something that you have to do. You have to live it every day, and we as a family have lived it. We have an awesome team, as Bryan said. They've lived it, and it's something that you keep doing. You keep living, and so then we thought, what's a name that represents that? What do you need to do that? Well, first of all, you need a foundation. Bryan, mentioned that earlier. So stone is what you use to make a really strong foundation, and there's a lot of biblical support for that as well. The cornerstones and even the stone that David used to kill Goliath. We found so many biblical associations with that importance of stone. And then water. Water means restoration and new life and cleansing. And in order to be successful, you've got to have a complete cleansing. You've got to accept that for yourself. A lot of kids or individuals, anyone who's struggling with addiction, there's a lot of shame associated with that. They come in and they're broken, and we're all about showing them that there is new life, and the past is washed away, and you can build on that strong foundation with a new life.
Did you two, Bryan, you're the CEO, and tell me what your title is, Elizabeth?
I am the Director of Outreach and Communications.
Did you two ever think you would spend your life working together, running an organization together?
Never.
I don't think so. I don't think that was really ever.
Never crossed my mind once.
In the game plan. Yeah.
How's it going so far? How long have you been in operation?
It's going good. So we've been taking patients for about a month now, but there was a lot that led up to that, sort of building the infrastructure. And so I've been with the company full time since September of last year, and Elizabeth came on full time in February of this year. So, yeah, we're just, as Elizabeth said, we've got a wonderful team that's come on board, and I just think God has blessed us in a huge way with that group of people, because it's people that are not only qualified to do the work that they're doing from an educational standpoint, but they're individuals that are so very passionate about what we're doing, and it's just a great group to be able to work with every day. And I think one of our big pieces about what we're doing is that we're authentic. Our organization is authentic, and part of that is because of the experience that the Fikes family has had, but it's also much in part due to the experiences that our staff have had and what they've gone through and how they've experienced this industry.
Yeah, kind of been there, done there.
Absolutely.
Done that, yeah.
So it's a really great group.
So I was talking to both of you before the taping, and just telling you I was reading through some of the things that you offer, and I was kind of asking, really? Do you really do all that? So one of you just kind of share with our viewers, everything that you guys offer at your amazing organization.
Yeah.
Well, we are offering experiential therapies like art therapy, music therapy, equine therapy, adventure therapy, nature, nutritional and wellness. These are all ways that the guys can get excited about other ways to find purpose and channel their energies, and then things that they can get excited about and engage in once they leave Stonewater. So that was important. And then in terms of clinical therapies, we're doing a lot of really exciting evidence-based programming that's been well proven, but you don't see a lot in this area, at least, and so we're really excited about that.
Yeah. Bryan, we talked a little bit about this too. I was curious to know whether or not you actually have a lot of interaction with the patients, and just tell us a little bit. I'm sure that's rewarding for you. Just tell us a little bit about what you're experiencing.
Yeah, I really love doing what I'm doing. I don't really know how else to say it. I get to go to work each day and really at least try to have a positive impact in the lives of the young men that are spending time with us right now. There's certainly a lot of sort of organizational items that have to be seen to on a day-to-day basis, but I do get to really get some quality time in with the guys, and that is what is super rewarding. I was sharing earlier that my wife and I, we live on campus, and so we've got a 3-bedroom, 2-bath sort of apartment that we live in, and then on the other side of that is a rec room that we've built for our patients to enjoy throughout the week. And it includes a ping pong table and a pool table and a big TV and a Nintendo Wii and music and just things for them to kind of get away and enjoy. And last night, actually, they were in there playing pool and playing Guitar Hero on the Wii, and I heard them, and so told my wife I was gonna just go spend some time with them, and I did, and it was just a lot of fun. Getting to hang out not only with the staff and kind of talk to them. We've got one of our young staffs getting married this coming weekend, and so she's really excited about that, and so I got to kind of share some of my wedding experiences with her, but then also to spend some time with the guys playing pool, and it was just it was nice, and I really do like to get to do that as much as I can.
What is the age range?
12 to 17-year-olds.
12 to 17.
And we do so we treat males on a residential basis, but we also treat adolescent females and adolescent males on an outpatient basis.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so kind of what that looks like is young people can come into onto the campus at a different part of the campus from the residential part for the outpatient services, and they can come for about 3 hours a day, a few days a week after school, get treatment, and then go home in the evening, and that's really a great community resource because it allows the adolescent to come see us, spend some time with us, and also stay involved in their academic program that they're a part of, with the recreational activities that they're associated with, be it sports or arts or whatever. And it's just not quite as much of an overhaul as residential treatment can be. So
it's neat also because they can come there if they've already received residential treatment somewhere else and then are trying to re-engage in school and life. They have a really intensive program, but they can still do while living at home. Or it's a great tool for early intervention. So if a parent is suspecting that their child isn't necessarily doing it every day or have a really strong addiction but is starting to show some signs, it's a way that they can get outpatient care, still live at home.
Yep.
Okay, we've only got about 30 seconds, so I want y'all to just tell me real quickly, if someone is dealing with an adolescent who is addicted to drugs, what should they do? How can they get in contact with you?
We've got a website, stonewaterrecovery.com. I would encourage them to visit the website and just see kind of the different things that we offer. That'll have our contact information on it. They can reach us directly from there. And
we can put that on the screen.
Great. And I would just say that from there, we're going to do all that we can to help them get the treatment that's best for them. If it's Stonewater that's right for them, that's great. But if not, then we're going to do all that we can to make sure that they get the help that they need.
All right. Well, we sure appreciate you being here. Thank you guys so much, and God bless your work.
Thank you so much, Ann.
Help support Faith Ministries by getting your car washed. Bob's Mobile Car Wash will come to you. All proceeds help the ministry to spread the gospel of Jesus Christ. Call us today